Sunnis to local Shia. To the east of the Shia slums is the predominantly Christian section of Beirut, known as Ashrafi'i. However, the only thing East and South Beirut have in common is that they are both located 15 minutes from downtown. Like the Shia and the Christians, the Sunni also have their neighborhoods in Zarif and Verdun, where there is a mixture of wealth and poverty. The close proximity of each of these groups, combined with political, entertainment, and educational realms that bring them together, for better or worse, make this diverse city a recipe for sectarian and political conflict. Hezbollah, or Party of God, has had a dark history as a terrorist organization. It began in 1982 as an Iranian-backed extremist Shia movement that sought to expel Israel from Lebanon, to attack American establishments, and to aid in the Palestinian quest for statehood. Historically, Hezbollah has dealt America some of its most devastating terrorist attacks. The bombing of the American embassy in Beirut in April 1983, the bombing of the Marine barracks in October 1983, an attack that took the lives of 241 Americans, and a slew of kidnappings of Americans between 1983 and 1986. That doesn't include Hezbollah's history of violence against Israel, which, after a 6-year hiatus, precipitated a major conflict in 2006. Well-organized, heavily armed, and closely tied with Iran, the military wing of Hezbollah continues to threaten Israel and has the potential to carry out many more terrorist attacks against America. Despite how well we all seemed to get along, my familiarity with the history of Hezbollah made me constantly suspicious of the young members I met in and around Beirut. I was nervous around these young men. It didn't matter how Western they looked or how much we engaged in superficial small talk. I knew their history. For 3 weeks of fast food lunches, I avoided telling them my last name or discussing my religion. Now, after just 3 weeks, they were ready to take me to Hezbollah strongholds. I didn't want any surprises. I churlishly thought if I revealed my Judaism at McDonald's, I would somehow be protected by the friendly American forces of crispy chicken sandwiches and supersized French fries. I assumed my companions hated Jews and Americans. Hezbollah is guided by a commitment to the destruction of Israel. They had kidnapped dozens of Israelis and Americans, and prior to 9/11, they were responsible for more American blood than any other terrorist organization in the world. And why would I think otherwise? I knew that Hezbollah didn't believe in Israel's right to exist. I knew that Hezbollah had been labeled a terrorist group by the United States, and I knew that Hezbollah had conducted numerous suicide attacks around the world. So these young men weren't exactly the kind of people I would want to see my American passport with my Jewish last name. While they were always courteous, friendly, and even kind to me, I always took it for granted that these young Hezbollah had ulterior motives. We developed a routine. They asked me what I wanted for lunch, and after telling them, I waited patiently for Hezbollah to wait on me. Middle Eastern youth are drawn to fast food. Eating it is an expression of hipness, style, and cosmopolitanism. I once met a young mechanic in northwestern Syria who would actually travel 7 hours to Beirut just to get Kentucky Fried Chicken. Every time I arranged for meetings with young people, they always picked a Western fast food chain like Dunkin' Donuts or Pizza Hut. At first I thought they were trying to accommodate me, but I soon realized it was their own affinity for American culture that was determining our meeting places. I was a little more anxious than usual on this particular Wednesday. How the hell do you tell Hezbollah, days before you're set to travel to their stronghold, that you are Jewish? I imagined every scenario possible. Few of these had a positive outcome. Images of violent confrontation horrified me. The last thing I wanted was to come back to my apartment to a frightening surprise. Before they even had a chance to put the trays of food on the table, I blurted out, "There is something I need to tell all of you before we go to Defiing," which was the location of the Hezbollah stronghold. "No problem, what is it?" answered Fuad, who had paid for my lunch 3 weeks in a row. He was the leader of the group, and usually dressed in dark blue jeans and a green collared shirt. We had actually met at a cafe in West Beirut 3 days after I arrived in Lebanon, when I interrupted him and his friends teasing a group